Remember that they are changing my voice. My name is Chukwuemeka. I'm monotheistic. I'm the top martial artist ever possible. My religion is universal, pinpoint, and moral precision. So, when it comes to my official stance on the resurrection, let me be very clear here. I do not believe that the miracles, in terms of in popular culture, for example, were literal. So this is the second clip, right? I was cut off. I do not believe that someone named Jesus turned water into wine literally or walked on water literally. I do not believe that someone named Jesus died on the cross and was resurrected and on the third day came back to life. Now hear me out here. When I was younger, I did believe that. And I was distracted by a lot of things like a broken heart. There were psychological operations being run on me because of who I am. On the real life idea that Christ in your imagination growing up is superimposed on, right? Santa Claus isn't real, and a fairy white Jesus isn't real. Ghetto black Jesus isn't real. Homosexual black Jesus isn't real. An Arab Jesus or Palestinian Jesus is not real. We'll get to that. In fact, I know for sure that the miracles were not literal. I know beyond a reasonable doubt. Okay, there's an unreasonable doubt. It's extreme and ridiculous, but I know beyond a reasonable doubt that the miracles were not literal. I know for many reasons, and some of these reasons you've heard before, and they told you in a way that it didn't really sink in. So let me help you with that. The story of Jesus does not start in the Bible. There were similar stories, and what happens in the ancient world, you see it time and time again. I've researched this for many years. I have thousands of videos. I have a college degree, and I've been researching heavily for the last 15 years. 15 years as a brain surgeon's son, okay? As the top martial artist with the most insight into matters of this nature. I've looked into this thing carefully, and I see that there's stories in the Middle East that predate in the Middle East and North Africa and Africa in general that predate the story of the Bible that are very similar. And there's many of them because people superimpose different ideas on the true version of it. The original version is that the top martial artist is the Son of God. Okay, the top martial artist of all of humanity. When Africans looked at the world, they didn't just say, hey, only black people. They said all of humanity. That is God's son. He's set apart. They look at the lion, they look at the falcon, they looked around and said, what is nature telling us on behalf of God? And we see that in the Bible in Psalm 19, where it says the heavens declare the glory of God. And the heavens also include the sun, which sheds light on the world, which also sheds light on what God's plan is. There are technologies that try to confuse people. They can even hack the brains of animals. Look it up. Okay. And they've been doing cloud seeding since the Vietnam War and perhaps before. That's a long time ago. Decades and decades, they've had weather modification technologies for decades. And those technologies have increased. So the evidence is clear that the story of Christ coming back to life is based on the martial art order and the continuity of the royal martial art line of all of humanity, which is a certain specific black African line. No offense to anybody, it's just the truth. Okay, I'm not a racial supremacist, I'm a mulatto, it's just the truth. Okay. So what we see then is that the miracles are figurative and that the Bible itself points to that. And I've gone over this many, many times in my videos, right? Jesus said he speaks figuratively in Revelation 17. It says the water stands for the peoples, the nations, the multitudes, and languages. We see in Isaiah where the water refers to well-being and righteousness and peace. And we see the waters of life, the living water of God that wells up into, becomes springs of water, rivers of flowing water in the believers. And that's also figurative as well. So we see that there's a lot of figurative language in the Bible. And what they did as a pattern of teaching was to make some of it more obvious than others. That's the pattern there. Okay, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. Okay, there's a deeper and hidden and message in there. And the Word is not literally, what you say. And there's some people who are into the occult and mysticism who make that argument. It's outrageous. The Word is the Spirit. The Word is the divine order, the Spirit of the order, the marshaling force of God, the warrior force of God, the heart of the matter, the essence of of the Spirit of righteousness, which is God and the Spirit of God. That part is key here. All this video is key. So we also see that not only historically do we see people lying about a story, whether it's the false version of Horus and Osiris, whether it's, the people talk about Mithra and Serapis and Zagreus and even Dionysus and on and on and on, right? The resurrected deities and on, and there's a bunch of them. We see in Hinduism, they also have a deity, I can't think of the name right now, I think it's Krishna, who they say is similar to Jesus or Jesus. There's a lot of these deities out there, and their stories are different from each other. Okay? But they're very similar to the point where there's key core characteristics, right? There's resurrection quite often. Okay? There's the son of an important deity or God himself. And there's no way around that, this isn't something that would just spring up and all of a sudden, hey, this is the true version of it. No, this is something that clearly was done as a means to control people. And we also see the most obvious evidence of all, right? And the Bible says God is exalted by his righteous acts. He's known by his righteous acts, Psalm 9, Isaiah 5. And to do the idea of God and believing in God justice, you can't just give someone a book and say, believe this, and you look around and you see nothing but shallow hypocrites believing it, okay? That's part of why I didn't go to church. I didn't read the Bible a lot when I was real young, because I saw nothing but liars everywhere, nothing but white supremacists, Jewish supremacists, and people with an LGBT way about them, token minorities, the people who everyone knows are the biggest liars and the most greedy and people in society, the biggest cheaters, what have you, in terms of the members of their group who fit that description, we'll say. So I knew I could not believe this book. So I said things like, how do you know Jesus even wrote the book? How can the people who killed Jesus say, hey, we've compiled a book and we want you to follow it? In their own narrative, they killed Jesus. This is the actions of villains who want to rub it in your face that you're an idiot and they're just telling you what to do. Like when Donald Trump said, that women just let him do whatever he wants because he's a celebrity, right? And he's laughing about it with Jeb Bush. Not Jeb Bush, Billy Bush, I believe it is. That is the pattern that we see in villains. It's the pattern we see in history. It's the pattern that we see in nature. We see that some people are more like a snake naturally. Now they have technologies and fumes and acting classes to confuse you about this. Keep that in mind. Be very vigilant, very sober. But when we look at what's reliable, the top martial artist who can outmaneuver everyone is reliable. Okay? I have no reason to lie to anyone. What I am is better than Tesla. It's better than Obama. It's better than Jean-Claude Van Damme and whatever singers you look up to, right? Put together, better than any entertainers, better than any athletes, better than any scholars. I'm the top martial artist ever possible due to tech, breeding, cheating, and generational ill-gotten gains disqualifying anyone in reality in the future. I'm the top martial artist in reality. The word martial is marital scrambled, and Christ is the bridegroom. So the resurrection was not a literal event. It was a figurative event, and it's based on the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order. What happens when the top, somebody sticks out? Okay, so there's a royal line, right? Some of these people are more normal seeming than others, right? Some are they're just the most righteous person at the time, is the son of the king or whatever. And some of these people emerge as something to behold. And you say, okay, the top martial artist is resurrected in that great warrior right there, okay? It's kind of like you look at the kings in the Bible, right? They say, some of Asa, there's something to be said about him. Josiah, Hezekiah, what have you. Okay, Saul. Instead of it going to Jonathan, it went to David because he was this great martial warrior, is the argument being made, right? Took on Goliath, the Jebusites, the Philistines, what have you, right? He has some kind of warrior force in him, is the argument that's subtly and otherwise made. And so I am the resurrection of the top martial artists in the top martial arts line of all of humanity. And I'm the final expression of it, because the divine verdict of it is also on my mouth, on my lips, like it says in Proverbs 16:10. I've established a throne in righteousness, focused moral intensity. The path of the righteous is like the morning sun, shining ever brighter till the full light of day. And in Psalm 19, the sun is the symbol of the bridegroom, also referred to as a champion. In the chapter before that, Psalm 18, it says the Lord trains the king's hands for battle. Okay? So this is not some shallow, heel-clicking Peter Pan nonsense like you people pretend it is. It's not fairy. It's not white supremacy. It's not wig wearing. It's not colonialist. It's not token minority kissing their ass. No offense to anybody. It's not gang bang, troublemaker who's mad at those guys for a good reason, but is also not holy. Okay? God's spirit is a royal African falcon martial arts spirit, the top martial arts. Now, I'm not racist. I'm the type of guy that gets along with everyone, right? Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Hispanics, Arabs, Chinese, Islanders, you name it, right? Every race, white people, Jews, and these people, some of them naturally revere me. They naturally want to gravitate to me, but they're scared of what's going to happen to their flesh. This is the truth of the matter. These are the facts. When the wise person, the wise king, if you doubt what I'm saying, think of it this way and you'll get it. If you're a wise king and you had to make a call on this, do you believe the top martial arts ever possible? Or do you believe the masses of hypocrites in the churches and their interpretation, which upholds white supremacy every generation? White, Jewish, and LGBT never fails. And they're hypocrites, and kids are getting molested, and so on and so forth. Their spirit is heavily flawed, as they are nearly identical spiritually speaking and in action and mannerisms and speech to one another. And countless of them are unrepentant child molesters. What more do you need to know? Okay, so in a nutshell, the method that is being used by the people who wrote the Bible and compiled the Bible is that the whole thing is a sort of jigsaw puzzle with a lot of figurative speech. Okay? From Genesis onwards, it's figurative for the most part, right? In the beginning, right, what occurs, right? God made the heavens and the earth. What's it talking about? It's talking about the same idea as we see in Revelation, right? When the heaven and earth pass away. If heaven is the sacred place, it's with God, why would God create a new heaven, right? Because they're talking about something else. They're talking about the essence of a place where people meet with God, a spiritual location, okay? The heaven with God is the true heaven. So a meeting place that's like an intermediary between God's plane, if you will, and the human plane is the main interpretation of what they mean by heaven, right? So in the beginning, God created a kind of intermediary heaven and a sort of first earth to see who deserves to be in the new heaven and the new earth when all is said and done. That's part of what the resurrection is about, right? It's the resurrection of your soul and spirit if you're worthy, if you were in the divine order. But if you cheated God of his right to lead, you're following false idols, you go down to the realm of the dead, right? And these people, the spirits that remain, make up a lot of the spirits that are going to hell after their flesh dies, right? So after my flesh dies, that is, the spirits that remain on the planet. Okay, the souls that remain. Now, it's a little bit difficult to explain. I'm surprised I explained it that well. But that is the gist of it, we'll say. That's the general idea. So, for example, someone like me, I come from a long line of people who on my father's side spoke Igbo. And he spoke, Yoruba and other languages like that. They didn't always speak English. Okay? And so that's where the martial art order, the main language of the Royal African Falcon Martial Art Order is a divine God language. And then from there, they spoke Igbo, whereas it's their human language. And some of the words in Igbo, from what I gather, I don't speak it fluently. I hardly speak it at all. They're words with like a divine kind of attachment or component, right? So it's like, for example, when somebody does a martial arts strike, in popular culture, they say, hi-ya, right? And if I say it's going to hurt my brain, they fuel me and poison me to prevent me from saying these things and to prevent me from doing martial arts, a long story. Okay. It's an authoritative utterance, but in what manner, right? Hi, second part, Yah, okay? And Yah is the moon deity. Yahweh, and I didn't always know this, mind you. Yahweh, Yah is short for Yahweh, basically. And Yahweh, Y-A-H, is a play on words for Ha, Y. So Y-A, Y alpha, and the H is the ancient symbol for the fence. And the letter scramble says Ha, Y. And so Ha, Y, way, and that goes back to mind, body, soul, and spirit. Figured out, figurative language, the figure of the person. Okay, how, you check your figure, what have you. The fig tree, the fig leaves, the figure, okay. And going about, talking about the way, the truth, and life versus the way, the fantasy theater arts, right? A demon has also been defined as a skilled performer, right? Dionysus, who's a young Zeus, who's connected to Serapis and Zagreus, the false image of Christ, right? He's a deity of theater, Dionysus, that is, theater, ritual, madness, religious ecstasy, grapes, to harvest, fertility, and by default, rape by deception, very similar to Pan, whose name means all for all the Greco-Roman deities. And a demon is a skilled performer, right? The theater, the eater, th, the t is a feminist suffix, look it up, t-heater, right? The eater, they're eating the heat, right? The cheat, see heat, see he at, he cat scrambled, right? Where justice, right, according to them who call good evil and evil good, is just ice. Though they do acknowledge, because they do a jigsaw puzzle with their wordplay as well, that injustice is injustice. So in this video alone, you should have enough information to know definitively that I'm right. Okay? Even in Genesis, they're speaking figuratively. They're not saying how the earth actually was brought about. That's what allows for, the Big Bang Theory and all this. That maybe there was a Big Bang. I mean, that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know. But I do know, spiritually speaking, the spiritual history of the world is God brought forth the world. He created the martial art order. He created the martial art order to have an intermediary location between him and that order. And he doesn't want the order to find their life in this world, and doesn't want anyone to rebel against my lead, and wants people to come into the formation, to yoke themselves to the King of Kings, the Christos, the Anointed One, me, the bridegroom, the champion, Siham Pion, okay, and to come into the spirit of obeying God through the one he set apart. Read Psalm 2 very carefully. Read Psalm 2. It's a very short chapter, like 12 verses or so. Read it very carefully. Take notes. In that is where almost everyone and their mom is wrong. God set apart this mighty warrior king that goes beyond anything you visualize in a white, Jew, Asian, or any other race, right? It's only a certain type of black people seem to be like it because it's like a rare gene expression of old. And I'm the last person who has this kind of, I wouldn't really say gene expression, but that too, right? There's that too. It's a spiritual expression in my soul that comes with my lineage to some degree, okay? And that's what, we see Israel is real, right? What is the real truth of the matter, right? Amos 9:7, are you not the same as the Cushites unto me, O children of Israel? Okay, so they're trying to compare themselves to the actual martial art order of God. Raham begot Cush, Cush begot Nimrod. He was the first mighty warrior for the Lord. They want to say, hey, as these Jews, no offense to the Jewish people, ladies and gentlemen, as they wanted to really feel important, as they, like every nation out there, try to do, right? They all lie about God, trying to feel important, trying to say that whatever line happens to cheat everyone else and be in charge, they want people to think that they're important, like Herod and Nero and on and on and on, okay? And so they said, we are like that guy, like it says in Genesis, ye shall be like gods. And we are like the soul brother of soul brothers, the King of Kings, the top martial arts king, the Royal African Falcon, martial art king. And we're going to say, hey, wave our magic wand and hey, it's us, right? And even the word Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel after he, quote unquote, wrestled with God and wrestled with the Spirit of God is what it's getting at. Okay, his name means to overreach, right? They're overreaching. They're reaching. To supplant. To seize by the heel. And there's what supposedly is an ancient depiction of an early Egyptian falcon pharaoh. And you see this old Jewish looking guy, looks like an old wizard or something. And he's grabbing him by the heel as he's being smited in his head. So he's going insane. And he's saying, hey, you can't skywalk on earth. You can't be on earth, right? Walk with God on earth. Ka, walking spirit, walking sky, walking sky, locker. Excuse me, sky, law, core. Sky, wall, core. They're trying to keep Horus out. Horus is a plain word for heroes, meaning master in ancient Greek dialect, as they say, as a root term of hera is where I found that. And it also means, in the modern English language, heroes, right? Heroes, right? Enter vow to El, meaning Lord. Also, El is a despicable Canaanite deity. The modern Jews you see these days, no offense to them, from my research, from my estimation, they are like Canaanites. Okay, they took on the Canaanite religion and patriarchal lines is what the evidence suggests. This is why some scholars have come to the conclusion that, there's an ancient occult Canaanite Phoenician system that's at play here. And some of those guys are wrong about a lot of things, but I do believe they're right about that. And it goes back to Mesopotamia, Babylonia, the Sumerians to some degree, though people don't really know about the Sumerians, and I'm no exception to the rule. But the evidence and the truth and what my heart tells me, what sense tells you, the overwhelming amount of evidence that shows us the most logical assumption and sound conclusion makes it clear that I'm right. Thank you.